Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to be working on something that is a little bit larger than what I have been doing. It's still on paper. I just find it very easy to work on paper when I'm making a video because it's faster and shorter. So I'm working on a landscape. There's going to be some fields, there's going to be lots of colour, and I'm going to get started on it now straight away. So we'll zoom in into this ordinary sketch pad of paper, and I've got a selection of colours, a selection of different size brushes. I have a spray bottle, which is very useful for just keeping my paints wet, keeping them sprayed down, whatever I have on my palette, and lots of white paint, and a palette knife and a hairdryer, also very handy. So we'll get straight into this, and I'm going to start with my bigger brush, and I want this to be quite colourful, so I'm going to put a lot of orange on my canvas, but I will be, or on my paper, I will be going over that as we go on. That orange won't be staying there, but it's a good base to work over. Because it's such a vibrant colour that any other colour, I have worked with it recently with orange, and I used turquoise green over it, and it was just a lovely contrast. We're using the two colours together, so I'm staying with that idea. I'm just putting this orange down roughly. Grasses in the foreground. I'm planning on putting a few fields and hills in the background, maybe a few trees, and we'll see how we go. So just really playing around with this, and I'm going to keep the orange and bring it up into the sky, but I'm going to mix it with good dash of white paint to lighten it up and make it more like a sky colour, a brighter colour for the sky, paler. Because often you will see kind of a warm tinge in the sky, even in a blue sky. That's quite dark. But I'm adding in a little, I have a little bit of that turquoise blue down on my canvas, so, or on my palette, so I'm adding a little bit of that in. And lightening up this. So it's kind of a base colour for my sky, but I will be going over that with blue and other colours as well. So there we go. Some of that colour right down. I'm going to hang this over the bottom of the painting. I'm going to hang the bottom of the painting over the edge of the easel, I beg your pardon, so I can get some of that colour. Don't want to waste all that there. I just want to bring the colour out over the bottom of the paper. But for some reason it's not sitting that well today. But yeah, I've got it covered. I'm going to add some yellow in to this paint color that I have here. Now I know it's all very similar it's all very orange at the moment. But that's okay. It will change as we go along. And if you haven't got a lot of orange, you can mix, you could just mix some red and yellow together, or some pink and yellow, whatever you've got that you want to. Really, this is a base for my painting that I'm putting down, and that orange gradually will be blending in with the other colours I'm putting into the painting. So now, yeah, I've got some white mixed with some yellow and still a little bit of orange thrown in there. And even though that sky it's kind of a browny colour sky, but I do like it. So I'm going to leave that brush down and finish up with that colour and use my finger just to blend there's some of the larger marks there, streaks, and blending them in with my finger. So yes, I have a little bit of turquoise already down on my palette, and I'm really going to just use it very lightly, mixed with water and a little bit of yellow, to put in some hills in the distance. I'm kind of seeing maybe there's a sweeping hill there. And maybe another one further back there. So I'm just putting them in very lightly. Green hills in the distance. Really just, I'm not looking at any, I've no photograph or anything in mind. I'm just making it up as I go along. And sometimes, yes, you get feels coming down from these mountains. So I'm going to play with that idea of having a tapestry of fields in the distance. And so you've got hills, and then you've got a larger field there in the middle. Maybe another one over here. There could be hedges along these fields, trees, maybe even a house or two here and there. And maybe something over here, a little bit thicker hedge over here. Still working away on just building up these hedge-like areas and the borders to these fields. Now I'm going to come in with my yellow. And mix a little bit of that turquoise blue with the yellow. And we're going to throw some white in. And I'm going to build up some fields in the distance. So that it does look a little bit like a tapestry of different colours. And a bit more yellow with some of them. They can be different colours in those fields depending on what's been planted in them. You get those fields with the rapeseed, which is very, very yellow in some parts of the country. See, fields with corn in them, or wheat or barley, or sometimes it's just a field that has been recently, the hay has been cut, so it's a different colour to the field next to it, which is a darker colour because the grass is still verdant and green in the next field. So the foreground then, so these are, yeah, I'm quite happy with the way these are going. I like the little bit of orange around the edges because that's still peeking through, because the hedges may have a lot of flowers, orange Mount Brescia growing in them in the summer, and that could be appearing in these hedgerows. So in this foreground here, I think it's going to be a field, just that I'm not going to come down into a roadway or anything like that, but that this is another field here in the foreground. But right up close, we got a lot of grass and some flowers, because there's always flowers growing in those grasses. In those meadows, it's always full of flowers. Wildflowers, they're everywhere. But if you're only looking out your car window, you won't see them because they'll blend into the horizon. But if you get out of your car and go right up and look at these fields, you will see all the colours that are in them and the flowers. So I'm just loosely putting in grassy shapes here. And if the wind is all going in this direction, if it's blowing this way, the grass is going this way. And for some reason I have this I just want to make it hang out over the edge. So the marks are coming off the page quite naturally. I'm just looking back at my the video. I'm going to zoom out slightly so that you will completely see, because I think I have moved this ever so slightly. I'm just bringing back into center now again. And I don't want to make this too detailed. I want to keep it nice and loose as it is. Throw in a few, I have some white here, and mix a tiny bit of yellow into it to give me a bit of some highlights in this area, grasses. Now I am going to add a little bit of, I'm going to go for a deeper green into the hedge. So this is my hooker's green, love it, it's a great colour. And it's such a beautiful colour for hedges and tree. You can see it there, it's just really giving a beautiful, beautiful green. Quite dark though, so I might have to lighten it up as I go along. I'm just adding some lighter colours into that hedgerow there. And we'll bring some of these hedges around here a bit as well. Just keep add in a little bit of that green. Especially here and there where you could have a tree in the background, you know, on its own somewhere, or a clump of trees or something. Now, I want to think about this sky a little bit, and because it is far too orange, and I'm putting some blue down. This is a cerulean blue. And I'm going to add some white into it and bring it into the sky. I want to get rid of all that orange, so I'm just doing it roughly, giving it a rough wash. Now, if you don't have the colours I have, it doesn't matter, just pick something, pick a light blue and work with that. You don't have to have the exact same colours I have, you can just mix things together to get something that approximates to something similar to what I'm doing. If you want to keep on if you come up with your own colour scheme for this painting, well and good, that's great too. And that's what it's all about, is experimenting to see what works together, what colours work together, and really you have to do that for yourself. It's through experimenting and working with colours that you'll find out what you like, what colours work well together for you. So yes, some of that orange is still coming through, and it's really nice, and it's making my blue sky look more realistic and more interesting than if I had just painted it flat blue. So I really think this works well, using the orange as a base for the sky. It's given me quite a lively sky that I like. And I'm going to also mix the same cerulean blue with a touch of purple. It's just a tiny touch of purple because I have very little purple on my palette, but it's the tiniest little touch of purple. To add to those, the horizon of those mountains, because it'll push the mountains further back. I know they're quite dark. I can lighten them a little. But yeah, blue pushes things into the distance. So really it's just the top of those hills I want to be the blue, because I want us to see some of these fields. I can even use some of that purpley blue that I have on that I used for the mountains. I can bring it up a little into the sky. Don't forget, if you put too much paint on, or you're not happy with the way you put the paint on, just rub it with your finger, or rub it with some kitchen paper or whatever you have at hand. So I'm having a look at this again in the camera, and I'm going to again go over this field with some blue and yellow mixed together, which will give me a greeny blue, greeny, that colour. And I will bring it up into this field as well. That colour. Needs to be in a few other little places to give it balance. And I think it needs to be a bit further down as well. I'm coming back in with the yellow to soften it up, because it is quite a harsh blue. And I'm going to add a little bit of purple into this close-up hedgerow to give it a bit of depth. This one here. Purple is very good for giving shadows. bringing this purple down a little bit further here as well into the foreground, just to give some depth into those grasses that are nearest to me, or nearest to the viewer here. So I just stood back from this landscape to take a closer look at it, and I am quite happy turning out. It's almost there. I want to add a few details in just before I finish up. So I'm just feeling some tiny details here into the foreground. Some flowers or grasses, grass heads, whatever they are. You know, the heads of or the flowers in the grass, the seed heads. Just to add them in there, clusters of them. And what that does is, by just putting these tiny little bits of detail and small things into the foreground, it gives just gives the viewer something to focus on, and it adds a lot of extra dimension to the painting. I could have left it just as it was there, as a landscape where you focus back into the mountains, but I wanted just to give a little bit more into the foreground there for the eye to enjoy. And I have some white paint here as well. For a few highlights. And I feel like just giving this a little bit of a highlight back here as well, on the horizon. Streak of paler colour, just to lead you in to that kind of valley there in the distance. So that's it from me today. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll just zoom in once again to let you see some of those details in the grasses. And that's it from me, Maria, today. I will be back with you next week. Please subscribe and share. And until I see you, God bless and bye-bye.